Hi, so I think I'm mainly recording this video today because I really need this reinforced, but I'm also hoping this will be very useful for you. So, here in the US, we are in the middle of our holiday season. We celebrate our Thanksgiving at the end of November. We then move into the Christmas season. Whether you celebrate Christmas or not, you cannot get away from it in the United States. You cannot get away from Christmas music, Christmas trees, the focus on presents. It's all over. And then some people also celebrate Hanukkah or Kwanzaa. There are many holidays during December. And then, of course, most of us around the world celebrate New Year's. So in less than 6 weeks, we have multiple major holidays. And for some people, these are 2-day holidays, perhaps more, where you see different sides of the family on different days. And no matter what, whether you're seeing a lot of family or you have no family to see, it is rare for people not to feel a lot of stress and then also a lot of feelings of loss or not measuring up or things not matching the perfect world showed by advertisers around the world. But this is just a super stressful period to go through, even if you love the holidays. And honestly, I loved the holidays when my kids were little. I really just totally enjoyed this period of time. But now I have kids living in different parts of the country with the pandemic. Some can come home, some can't. Children grow up, they get married, they spend time with their spouse's family. Things seem so much more complicated. And then on top of that, for some reason in my family this year, there is some controversy around certain family members, whether they should be invited or shouldn't be invited, and people are pressuring others to agree with their point of view. And I'm sharing this because someone recently told me in my private Facebook group that goes with one of the programs that I run that I shared something personal, and she said it helped her so much to realize that she's not alone, that these problems can be legitimately hard to deal with. So I really want to come back to this concept of joy, yet also just acknowledge that for all of us, the pandemic is complicating things. Families are complicated. We wish and we desire for happiness and peace. We really do, all of us. We just have different views of what would make us happy and create peace, right? So we end up with different points of view and then end up frustrated at each other because the other person doesn't agree with us, right? So having some humility that we don't always know exactly what works, but we can know what works for us. Anyway, that brings in boundaries, but let's come back to the concept of bringing joy into the next few weeks. How do we add more joy for ourselves into this holiday period? And then if we're more joyful, probably we're bringing more joy to others as well. So I'm going to start with 2 things I think block joy, and then talk about things that I think can bring more joy to you this holiday season. So one of the top things that blocks joy during the holiday season is if only thinking. So you may want to spot, just pay attention as to how much if only thinking you're doing. And if only thinking is, if only Uncle Joe would stop asking me about whether I'm getting married or not. If only my brother would stop asking me for money. If only my family lived closer. If only this person would be nicer to me. If only I had a better job. If only we didn't have this pandemic. If only, if only, if only. It's exhausting. And it's totally natural, but it's exhausting. We think the world would be better if only people behaved the way we want them to behave. If only people didn't pressure us. If only we didn't have to repeat our boundaries so much. It is such a destructive way to think. So if it's possible to let go of those if onlys. The if onlys could also be about the past. If only I hadn't broken up with that person. If only I had done XYZ differently in my life. Ooh, let's put all those if onlys on a cloud and let it float away. Every time you hear yourself saying if only, let's put it up there on a cloud, let it float away. So the second thing that really blocks our joy, and this is kind of actually sort of 2 things, but making other people happy or impressed, wanting things to look perfect so other people think that we're perfect or we have it all together or how we want to appear, right? So that's like worrying about what other people think. And then there's also the wanting to make everybody happy, wanting to throw an event where everybody loves the food, everybody loves the gifts you give them, everybody behaves themselves because they're having such a great time. Our desire to make other people happy is a wonderful thing, right? It makes us kind and generous and empathetic, but we can't control other people's feelings. And I talk about this in the webinar that I have, and there's a link below if you're interested, rewiring your brain for joy and confidence. But making others happy is a Sisyphean task. It seems like it's working sometimes. It seems like, well, we can do it sometimes. But really, whether somebody is happy or not is their inside job. Whether we're happy or not is our inside job. So you can't consistently make somebody else happy. So I see that as something that really gets in the way of enjoying the holidays. When we give gifts, if we can just give them from the openness of our hearts, something we believe the other person will like, and if they don't, it's too bad, but it doesn't really reflect poorly on us. And it's okay. Not everybody has to like every gift. And some people are very good at pretending that they like gifts and other people are not, right? Other people might show it right on their face. I'm someone where everything shows right away on my face. And there was a few years ago, my husband actually gave me a winter coat, which was really sweet and generous and lovely, but I didn't like it at all. And I don't really want people buying me clothing that I wear all the time, right? I'm a little picky there, but I appreciated his effort. But he could tell, he could see on my face, and it was disappointing for him. And I get that, but it's okay. I tried to hide what I thought, and I did express my appreciation, and I was appreciative, and it was very easy to return and get something different. But anyway, maybe a silly example, but other people won't always love our gifts. We won't always love what we get, and that's okay. That's okay. And there is no way to create a holiday event where everybody's happy and everything is perfect. So that's another thing to just trying to make everybody happy and trying to appear perfect. Let's take that. Let's stick that on another cloud. Might have to be a big cloud to hold all that. And let's let that float away. All right, let's get to the joy piece. So right now, I'd like to ask you to take a nice deep breath, close your eyes, and picture what does bring you joy during the holiday. What are the moments of joy that you have? And I'm going to take a deep breath to give us time to bring that to mind. Breathe into it. Breathe into those moments of joy, even if they're small. And most moments of joy are very much in the moment. They're when we are very mindfully present in the moment. So just notice if your moments of joy include being in the moment. And often we can have moments of joy that include awe. Awe at a beautiful sight in nature, awe at a beautiful piece of artwork, awe at a child, but see if there's also some moments of awe that you connect to the holidays. And these moments of awe might also have a spiritual element to them. So just notice them, bring them in. Awesome. So let's talk about 3 practical tools for bringing more joy into this holiday season. Number 1 is the most important, and that is to create space. Create space for yourself to connect with what makes your soul happy. And some people might feel like, how do I do that? How can I create space? And a great example came up for me today, because you guys know that sometimes when I do a video, I look at kind of like, what else is out there? What are people saying on this topic? And I pulled up an article on adding joy to the holidays. And one of their top recommendations was to write personalized holiday cards. And I read that and I was like, that is not something at all that would bring me joy. And I used to do holiday cards, and when my kids were little, it was fun, get a picture of everybody, send it out once a year. But it was an enormous effort. It felt very stressful, and I finally let it go totally. Now, that's just a personal choice. That's about what's important to me, what's not important to me. I decided that that was just not worth the effort for me, and eliminating that created enormous space. Another friend of mine, she got later and later with her holiday cards until eventually she decided just to send out a Valentine's Day card with a picture of her family. So she does the whole thing in February after this holiday burst is over. So that's how she created space during the holidays. But there may be other ways you can create some space for yourself, maybe by limiting the amount of time you spend on buying presents, maybe pulling back on that perfectionism about how the house looks or the decorations, or finding that perfect gift, giving yourself a break. So creating space is the number one, I'd say, requirement for experiencing more joy, because in that space, you can both tap into what your soul really wants. You can add in some more self-care, some nice things for yourself, a walk, a nap, an exercise class, whatever it is that you need for self-care or for enjoyment. And the other thing about creating that space is that you can tap into the spirituality that infuses your life with more joy, and that might be a direct connection within a particular religious tradition, or it might be a connection to the universe, to the mystery of life, whatever that means for you. And that leads us to the second way to add joy, which is focusing on the true values of the season. So almost all cultures have some type of Thanksgiving holiday celebration. Giving thanks is super important, right? And then the other religious traditions that come in at this time of year, they can vary, but most of them have very core values around love for each other, connection to a higher purpose. And of course, the new year is celebrated around the world, and some cultures celebrate it at a different time of year. I do understand that. But most cultures celebrate some type of new year, new beginning, ritual to let go of the old and embrace the new, a time to tap into aspirations for the future. So tapping into the core values that lie underneath our major holidays and keeping the focus there, right? So in the US, if you're in the US and you're just bombarded by advertisements and buy this, buy that, your life's not okay if you don't own this, give the best gift ever, the top 5 gifts for dads, or the top 10 gifts for your boyfriend or girlfriend, right? We have all of this stuff bombarding us. But what's the purpose of a gift? The purpose of a gift is to connect, is to say, I'm thinking about you and I want to make you happy. And like with that example I shared about my husband and the coat, he wanted to make me happy. He took a risk because he knows like the safe gifts to get me, but he took a risk. He wanted me to be happy. I appreciated that. I saw it in the light of connection. So the second major way to have more joy this holiday season is to make sure that you can tap into what values are super important for you and see if you can ignore the rest. Or if not ignore, downplay or minimize, and maybe post reminders all over. Post reminders like the real point of this holiday season is to love each other, to love God, to have optimism towards the future, whatever those values are for you, right? And I'm also thinking about that list I read this morning, the top 11 ways to add joy. Almost none of those on there were ways that would add joy in my life, and I don't want to assume what will add joy for you. So I like to share what I feel are the integral components that underlie almost everybody's joy, and that tends to be things like being mindfully present, being kind to ourselves and others, the moments that reflect that, and the moments that reflect awe. These are some components that underlie joy for most people, and what actually creates that for you might be different than for me, but spending time thinking about it and then cultivating that. So that leads me to the third suggestion, which is to cultivate those things that give you joy. So number 1, create space. Number 2, bring to mind the true values of the season for you. And number 3, cultivate it by weaving it into your daily existence. You can post a note on your refrigerator or your computer or your bulletin board at work with the values that you want to embody this season. For me, this year might be connection, ease, and simplicity. I want to keep it simple this year. So if I post on my mirror and I see it every morning, connection, ease, simplicity, it will stay there for me, right? Cultivating it, making it your priority. And part of cultivating it, I think, is also a feeling of gratitude, like really focusing on those things you're grateful for. That's a much better focus than those as if things we talked about at the beginning of this video. And so as I'm winding down here, I want to say that I am so grateful for you and the other listeners of this channel. This has been sort of an amazing journey as I've brought my life's work online, and hearing from you and people around the world that this is meaningful for you, that it helps, that it's helping people live more joyful lives. Having some people join me in the programs I run where I can actually see the transformations that they are going through. This is one of the things that I value, honestly, more than almost anything else. So I'm very grateful for you. I really wish you a wonderful, wonderful holiday season. Bye for now.